Welcome to NCBA's Cattleman's Call podcast with host Lane Nordland.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Cattleman's Call podcast. Lane Nordland with you here today. Our conversation being brought to you by our friends at John Deere from the CattleCon 2026 trade show. And of course, interesting weather patterns going on. 70 degrees in Montana yesterday. 23 degrees here in Nashville. And trying to look towards the future, cattle producers turn to those that know more about it than I do. Joining us here today, Mr. Matt Makens. And Matt, you just walked off the stage from the Cattle Facts Forum during this year's cattle industry convention. What was the feeling in the room? What did you feel from that audience on
Well,
stage?
it was feeling like 72 room temperature.
Yeah.
That's how it was feeling.
So the same temperature that was in Montana.
Oh, the mood. Sorry.
The mood, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the mood.
What was the mood?
It was really good. Really great attendance. Standing room in the back. So it was packed. Obviously, people were interested not just in the weather change.
Yep.
We're going to transition this year, but just the market outlook. You know, you bring it up all the time about heifer retention. Are the signs there? What are we doing? So it was really an engaged group this morning. And sometimes in Nashville, morning sessions, the engagement of the groups depends on the night before.
Yeah.
But this one was good.
Yeah, living it up on Broadway, like the Bee Gees sang. I don't think they were actually talking about Nashville, but
Hey, it works.
that's what I think of.
On this podcast, they were talking about Nashville.
So obviously a little colder weather down here. We saw quite the system come and impact the central states up into the southeast and northeast over the past few weeks. A lot of wind up in my neck of the woods over
Right.
the past few months. That warm weather brings wind. We know that. What are we looking at right now? Where are we currently at here in February 2026? And what are some of the models that you're watching moving into the spring?
Okay, so super short term, the pattern we have been in with the cold focusing east, warmth west, precip east, dry west, we're going to try to flip that a little bit. Maybe not in the extreme cases,
Not
but
like
we'll
the
spread.
pyramid flipping, but
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
close to that.
very
Okay.
similar,
Okay.
very close. You'll cool off in Montana. We'll cool off in Colorado. Most of the West cools off. And I'm not saying prepare for Arctic blasts. I mean,
Yeah.
that's possible, but we'll just see this reverse. So eastern areas will warm up, western areas cool off. And with that western area cool off, we're going to start to bring in more systems and hopefully build some snowpack, which is virtually non-existent in a lot of those basins.
So why couldn't you pause that for when we're going to calve at home? All these guys that are seed stock producers, they've had really good weather, but you're going to bring it on when I have to calve now.
Yeah,
So
just
that's
when
not
you're
fair.
ready to go.
Yeah.
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 It was your comment about me behind my back, I should note, earlier in this session.
Oh yes.
So yeah, you're not getting
Yeah,
you're gonna be cold.
it was. I didn't give him a Reese's Pieces actually. So with that, what are we anticipating? Obviously, the snowpack, very big concern. We are hopefully off to a good start. Around Thanksgiving, we saw those
Yeah.
systems come in. They even opened the ski hill just over the ridge from us several days early, and folks were very excited that snowpack was going to be there in the west. Obviously, things changed. How much snowpack could maybe we see, depending on what those cold weather events bring from the
Sure.
northern hemisphere?
For reference, some of the basins in the Rockies are historically snowless. You look at the chart, they're way down here.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even close to average. So to get a boost by, we're early February. So we've got, through Easterish to boost that. Can we really get that big of a boost in 2 months? That's a huge question. It's not likely.
Mm-hmm.
But with this favored storm flow, at least we're going to bring in some of that water. And we have got, in this case, like you pointed out, November, so I'll go back to November. We had cooler weather in November and early December. We got the snow. The snowpack was doing okay. But then we warmed up and we lost a lot of that snowpack to early melt. We can see that sadly again this time. So if we can't maintain or sustain that cold to the west, sure, it may snow, but then we'll rapidly warm and then we'll lose that snowpack. So the season in total is not going to be very good. We need some really massive storms to wallop the Rockies with snowfall.
So with the advent of El Niño, we're coming out of that La Niña that we've seen. What would you say we're in a neutral state right now?
Technically not at this moment.
Okay.
We kind of, this La Nina is weak as it was last year too, and it's kind of ebbs and flows. So we'll see a couple week period where every signal is really strongly La Nina, and then it kind of goes toward neutral. In general, yes, we're leaning. Technically, we may still say La Nina, but we're leaning into the neutral territory, and we continue to lean that direction. So it's last legs, if you will, kind of last breath for this current La Nina. And then as we go throughout, say, spring into summer, a neutral pattern opens the door to El Nino in this case, and the odds do favor El Nino for later in the year.
So when we're looking at that later in the year activity, when we're looking at the 4 quadrants of the United States, what can we expect? Just to refresh our memory, my memory on the impact of El Nino.
You didn't read their cliff notes I provided.
I did not.
Yeah,
these interview. It's just too small. I didn't bring my my bifocals. Sorry.
I wrote, so we have La Nina is the drought one, okay? That's when we see the drought map explode with color across the southern U.S. and at times into the plains. And we've seen that. El Nino will act to reverse that. So let's take the forecast for this year, and we'll spread some of the moisture over the southeastern states, the Ohio Valley, mid-Mississippi, the northern, and we'll gradually shift it west.
Okay.
So by the time we're in summer and fall, we'll see precip patterns flip, so more of the southern U.S. gets water, more of the northern U.S. may lean into those drought numbers. It's not a mirror image of each other, but we're basically just flipping that precip pattern around. So how your year started, not likely to be how it's going to finish.
Okay. And again, we've had a lot of these conversations. Again, my experience in the West, we've already sat down saying, start identifying those cows that maybe need to go if we don't get moisture. We're looking at spring, summer. What can we expect as we're maybe in that more neutral state, precipitation-wise, before we get to El Nino?
If La Nina is an extreme in one direction, El Nino's extreme in another direction. And if you're in between the two, you're losing the driver of the semi that's really veering side to side. And so neutral just basically it reduces your odds of those extremes. And we had this last summer where a lot of folks got good water for a long time.
Yeah.
There wasn't a bigger driver saying, no, I'm going to put more drought here, those guys.
Yeah.
So to sit in neutral, say through spring or summer, in most cases helps the beef community better than if we would swing rapidly toward El Nino, because then you introduce the extremes. Last spring, last summer are good examples of what kind of a neutral-ish pattern would be. This year's going to probably be more like 2023, where we go through that phase, and then we may see a quick arrival of El Nino, and then the precip gets a little more extreme. But
so based on historical weather patterns and maybe what you're watching right now, how long could the potential El Nino last?
If you look at history alone, and look at the years that this feels similar to or looks similar to, it would be one and done. But we're talking 2 years out. So give some grace there. But if you look at history and kind of how the old pattern is doing, El Ninos are classically going to be like a one winter kind of deal, and then they fade out. It's too early to say that definitively. That's just historically where we would kind of apply some of the odds.
Now, earlier in some previous podcasts, we discussed all that moisture that some states received late in the summer. Inches of moisture that truly did save so many operations from shipping calves early, reducing their herds even more. So drought, obviously top of mind. How, I think you and I talked to wildfire and the impacts that fires in Alberta had. Did you and I discuss that? Yeah.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
So there's always these unknowns that could appear. Do you want to expand on that again, or maybe for our friends that didn't listen to that conversation, how those wildfires in Canada impacted the weather systems?
So if you look at the big picture, like our big dartboard, to hit the board, you got to know El Nino, La Nina, neutral. That's kind of the big rings. And then as you work and get your forecast more accurate, then you introduce things, a bunch of factors, but you mentioned wildfires. So put that like in the center bullseye. And how that would impact an area if they're big enough and you send that much smoke across. And in this case, what you're talking about was most of central and eastern Canada was covered in at least some smoke. That's reflecting sunlight. So instantly you're starting to change how the budget of the energy all works. So a big enough wildfire season can augment the forecast. And in last year's case, it was all part of this big kind of chain reaction, or something was slowing down this pattern, the wildfires, and that smoke probably reinforced it for a while. And we actually felt like, to me, it felt like we kept fall going well into summer.
Yeah.
And then summer's weather kind of arrived late and lingered into fall. So it was all kind of daisy chain is not the right word, but you probably know what I mean. Is one thing started it, and then all these other little factors reinforced that.
Yep.
And last summer, it was wet for a lot of folks that weren't expecting it.
Green.
So it was
green grass in August.
Yeah.
It was pretty.
You were last time I saw you, you were extremely happy with your year of weather.
The hay crop wasn't the greatest on the dry land, but then the rain came, so we're not going to cuss that. But hey, last time we talked about the comfort index,
right?
A way to measure and maybe prepare for some of these weather events, and to make sure that our animal welfare is top of mind during heat, during cold. Share an update on that.
Okay, so the project builds on research that's been done for years, but how cattle, their health will respond to wind, humidity, soil moisture, all of these factors, and it's built into this index. So anybody that watches TV or your iPhone, whatever, you see the wind chill thing, right, or heat index, and we talk about that for us a lot. This would be similar to that, but it ties more closely into actual data in cattle health, and it's not breed specific, although we could go there, but I'm nerdy enough and don't want to go there. But you just look at the environment, like is this animal in an area that just got heavy rain, so now you have to consider localized humidity levels through the roof, the amount of sunshine. So this time of the year we're worried about cold health stress, and those products take in all of this data and say these areas the cattle stress due to cold is X amount. Mm-hmm. So that project is ongoing. And again, we could get breed specific, because what affects your cattle is going to be different than what affects a producer in Texas, right?
Yep.
But it's a good guide to say, I'm hearing this wind chill thing, but that animal has 2 inches of ice on her back.
Yep.
And it ties that in together. And that's the big difference between that and what you might see on your phone or TV. Or
what are some other areas that you're working on right now? Maybe exploring and just, trying to continue to be the best meteorologist you can.
Continue to work on that and expand it, because right now it goes out 10 days. Mm-hmm. I like for it to go out more generally to about a month or so. So I could say, Elaine, you really should watch the third week of whatever, that kind of information. Yep. And then we could get more specific as it gets closer. So I continue to work on that, but there's a lot of forecasts made in the past, and it can take a lot of work to verify your forecast, what went well, what went wrong, and the power of AI and machine learning. Yep. We can do that much quicker. So kind of this year's project is a lot of bias correction and helping forecasts get even more accurate based on past performance. So that's a big project.
That's an interesting point you bring up. We always say if we're making a TV package or preparing for a broadcast, it takes about an hour to prepare for that 1 minute of content. What is it on the weather aspect of things? I've never actually thought of that.
For example, this morning's Outlook was 20-minute Outlook with 40-some slides. Probably in total, to crunch the numbers, create the mapping, and the text was 10 days probably of work.
Yep.
And that's
a big
most of that's the forecasting stuff, because I'm an analog history-based kind of guy, and bring in modeling at the very end. So it's a lot of data, and it's a lot of just actually writing. Yeah. This year looks good for this reason, and then maybe the next day I come back and be like, actually I'll take that off the list. So it's building, over time, but it takes quite a while when you pour over the data. Yeah.
So what's your biggest tip for producers listening to this, just about engaging in your content, where they can find that, but also just becoming better forecasters themselves and resources available?
This year, every year it gets worse and worse, okay? But take the example of this winter, and there is so many folks that will text or email me a picture they saw on whatever platform about this blast coming in 3 weeks or whatever it may be. Let's focus less on what you see on social media. The government's a great resource for forecasts. People like myself, let's pump the brakes a little bit on those extremes, because they're extremes to get clicks, not to alert you to something, right? So I think just be diligent about where your information's coming from. And I've said it many times before. Don't go to one person, have like 3 that you have a relationship with or whatever, and then you compare their forecast one another. I think also as you go throughout the year, this year in particular, the strength of El Nino is a factor we haven't discussed. But the stronger it is, brings different impacts. There are offsetting factors that come into it. So don't just hear El Nino and think, West Texas, I'm getting lots of water. Because there may be other factors that take away from it. So try to consider as much as you can.
Mike, you went to Air Force Academy, right?
I started there. I went to
there.
Kansas.
Oh, you went to Kansas.
Got my degree through Kansas. Yep.
I was just, and so when you look at that, what is some advice you have for someone that is looking towards a degree or a career in forecasting and meteorology in this ever-shifting media world in sharing correct information?
One of the biggest things is somebody that's, I saw a tornado or went on my first chase when I was 8, whatever it may be. And there's that tremendous value that will always continue to kind of appeal to the chaser mentality, the observer mentality. Going forward, the developments within AI and data handling and the amount of data and space, satellites, all those kinds of things, I really push people to say, really focus on AI. So you're going to learn a whole lot more computer programming than I did when I went to school. Mine was in Fortran, which is archaic. But keep up with those kinds of things, because the development of meteorology and climate sciences will be more and more data. You got to handle it. But the fun side of it, it's hard to tell a data nerd like me not to go chase a storm. I do, because you get that thrill. But just in the back of their minds, it's coming up. So focus on the coding stuff. That's going to be huge.
Do you throw the whole family in the car and chase?
Oh yeah, they've come. Yeah.
What, any last thoughts? A busy day. I know you just came out of that session. Any last thoughts that maybe we skipped over today that you just want producers back at home to just be aware of?
I think just reach out. Those sessions are so much data, a lot of numbers. People try to take pictures on their phones, right? Or write down what a comment may be. Maybe they couldn't see their location on a map, whatever it may be. Just reach out and ask. That way you're clear about it. Or if something doesn't make sense, let us know too. We can clarify that. I mean, the whole point of this session is to let you be prepared. If you walked out not feeling prepared, say, Matt, I need help with this. Your map was confusing, whatever. So I would say that. Just ask. Make sure you're on solid footing, because you have big decisions to make.
And again, the weather's a big part of those decisions and impact our bottom lines, no matter if it's good moisture, no moisture, weather events.
And even if the outlook is great, what if you don't get all that water in November or whatever? You got it in August or something, Just have to pump our brakes a little bit and consider all the risks.
And of course, your work with CattleFacts, that's published, it goes out to everybody, but also give a shout out for the resources that folks can find on the NCBA platforms.
So CattleFacts is longer range planning, bigger scope. With NCBA, it depends on the platform. There's National Cattleman or Directions Magazine, and those will be kind of the seasonal outlook type things, or maybe something topical. And then if you go towards social media, then you get the more of, hey, watch out lane this week because I circled your part of Montana for strong wind. Those kinds of things via social. And C2C is another great option for some regional weather. So it's with NCBA, it's all encompassing, try to give a heads up on every platform.
Well, again, Matt, thanks for joining us right after your big session this morning.
Pleasure, Lane. Pleasure.
Safe
and we
travel.
kept it clean.
We kept it clean. Yes. I did shower this morning, you mean? Yeah.
You smelled
I didn't roll in from
Yeah,
Broadway and just sit down here.
Irish Spring. I think
Irish Spring is, yes, I green Irish Spring car, so I travel with that. Smells like our old shop. That's what used to be in the front entry hall. But hey, Matt, thanks for joining us,
bet, Lane.
and we look forward to hearing another update here in a few weeks and months.
See you down the road.
Yep, sounds good. Again, check him out on all those social media platforms. And of course, thank you for joining us, and subscribe wherever you watch, listen, and enjoy podcasts. The Cattleman's Call here today. I'm Lane Nordlund. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to NCBA's Cattleman's Call podcast with Lane Nordlund. For more information, visit ncba.org and make sure to subscribe to the podcast today.